Greetings, everyone. So, your brethren work a late shift once again, and so I entered that building, and the sun was out. When I exited the building, the sun was out again. So it was that kind of night. But needless to say, if I'm gonna make a video right after leaving the plantation, then there has to be something important that I'm trying to communicate to my subscribers and so on and so forth. I wanted to qualify two things, because on one hand, I made a video about the Nigerian crisis, and I was mistaken in my characterizing and my description of the crisis which actually took place. Now, apparently, in Nigeria, there was a civil war that took place, and many Igbos were slaughtered. Now, many of you may say, well, you're not familiar with who the Igbos are. You've never heard this term before. Well, I used to read a lot of books from Chinua Achebe. I think that's the correct pronunciation. There was an African writers series, and he wrote various novels, which I found to be very interesting. I found a lot of quotations, which proved to be useful in my communication with others. Certain African proverbs, which were all throughout the text, and I found that to be very inspiring to learn some of these wise sayings, so on and so forth. But not to be sidetracked, in the Nigerian civil war, many Igbos were slaughtered, and they were slaughtered at the hands of Hausa and Fulani. Now, I'm in the Bahamas, so I don't really want to delve too deeply into internal struggles from the Nigerian paradigm, but I just wanted to make mention of this because I think in my video I actually said that the Hausa were not involved in this conflict, and I saw it purely from a religious standpoint. I saw it purely from a dogmatic standpoint, and so I think I had mischaracterized how the actual civil war took place. The civil war was actually one in which there was a massacre of a particular tribe, and according to those who I was in contact with online, apparently Hausa and Fulani were involved in this. Now, I hope that this video makes it to someone who can give me some additional clarity, possibly another take. There's always two sides to everything, or three sides, as they say, your side, my side, and the truth. So I would like to know from Nigerians if you could give me some clarity as to what actually caused the genesis of this conflict. Okay, that's the first clarification. I basically saying that I don't have a 100% clear picture of what took place in the Civil War, what precipitated the conflict, and what actually is continuing to precipitate these incidents of violence. But regarding my Mutabaruka video, I had to take it down. I saw something that wasn't particularly pleasing aesthetically, so I had to make a little adjustment and just basically bring the video back again and include a qualifier of my Nigeria video. at the same time. Okay, so I just would like to recap the Mutabaruka story. Okay, so we all know that around the world, Rastafari as a community is heavily oppressed. Contrary to the imagery related to Rastafari, contrary to the music and the themes that we promote, everything was not as peaceful as the music would indicate to a person. While we were singing these types of songs, the brothers who came before me, while they were singing these songs, Rastafari were actually being shot and killed in the streets. They were having their dreadlocks shamefully cut from their heads. They were beaten and brutalized by police for having a faith that was contrary to the status quo, right? And so when Mutabaruka came here, he experienced that, the oppression of Rastas wasn't just taking place in Jamaica. Oppression was taking place all around the world, wherever we existed, wherever we professed our faith. There was like an accompanying brutality that came along with that. Okay, but when Mutabaruka came here, if anybody saw that video, you would know that I mentioned Priest Ted. Priest Ted is the Bobo Shanti priest that was convening a congregation on a regular basis in the Miami Street area, right? And there was Nyabingi around town. There was also some 12 tribes in isolated pockets, but primarily there was Nyabingi and Bobo Shanti in the Bahamas. So anyway, Mutabaruka visited some Rastafari people in the Miami Street area, and when he visited them, the police raided this compound and carried all of them to the police station, right? And so in going to the police station, Mutabaruka witnessed as other Rastafari from the Bahamas were being trimmed by the police. And when it came time for him to actually face this persecution, the police saw that he had a Jamaican passport and thought, instead of cutting his locks, that they would deport him back to Jamaica. And this was something that kept him away from the Bahamas for 20 years. And as I said in the previous video, some friends and I, we wanted to go and see Mutabaruka perform some of his poetry and to make some of his usual commentary about spirituality, right? And so when we heard this story, we were all shocked. I looked around in the room at all of the elders who I knew from the Bahamas, and I thought, well, they never told me this story, but it just really highlights the oppression that was the precursor to now a more free expression. A lot of people, they embracing dreadlocks, they embracing African identity, African culture, and so as we listened, Mutabaruka told this story, and it really just opened our eyes to the fact that this struggle has been going on for a very long time. In the modern era, the law is allowing for certain employers to discriminate against employees based on having dreadlocks, which they would deem unprofessional, right? But it's just really a symptom of self-hatred, because in black countries in particular, it seems like this oppression is a lot more intense. It's nonsensical for Africans to oppose dreadlocks, which were always present on the continent. And so when I heard about the Supreme Court in America the fact that they would uphold the right of employers to discriminate against people who have dreadlocks, I found that, this is just a universal problem, an international problem. And, we should cease looking at the Pan-African paradigm as being something dogmatic. Like, we have these various camps and schools of thought that operate independently, and they don't recognize that when one is oppressed, it represents the oppression of all of us. So if we allow Rastas to be oppressed for having dreadlocks, and just conscious people in general, if we allow them to be oppressed for having dreadlocks and trying to find a way to be gainfully employed in society, then we would open the door for the oppression of any other form. So I just wanted to make mention of that and just make a brief commentary. I know some of you saw the video, but it wasn't really as widely received as yet. So I think I still had a chance to just add some qualifications to this issue and also the Nigerian crisis. But it's like, drop me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. One love.